Hello students. In medical profession, while taking the history of the patient many a times give complaints of muscle weakness. And also as a doctor, you see the signs of paralysis of the muscle. Like in this case of ocular myasthenia gravis, you can see that there is a paralysis of the muscles of the eye. Sometimes you might be suspecting some kind of muscular dystrophies, very commonly like Duchenne muscular dystrophy or Becker's muscular dystrophies or other kind of muscular dystrophies. Or you might be suspecting some nerve damage, like in case of poliomyelitis or any other neuromuscular disorders. Whenever any of these conditions are being presented, usually doctors gives an investigation of electromyography. So you might be wondering what is electromyography. Today in this lecture we'll discuss about what is electromyography, how it is done, what are its applications, what are the abnormal EMG findings and lot more. So without wasting the time, let's get started. Okay, before starting the lecture on electromyography, let's try to understand the term electromyography. The name electro means electrical activity, myo means muscle, and graphy means recording. So basically electromyography means it is a recording of the electrical activity of the skeletal muscle, and that is how the term electromyography was derived. So let's start with the lecture. Hello students, I am Dr. Gitesh Dubal. Let's start with the definition of electromyography. So what is electromyography? Electromyography is a technique for evaluating the and recording of the electrical activity of the skeletal muscles. The instrument which is used for recording the electrical activity is known as electromyograph, and the record is known as electromyogram. So let's understand once again. Electromyography is the technique, electromyograph is the instrument, and electromyogram is the record. It is something similar to electrocardiography. Now there are two scenarios in which the muscles are being tested. One is in the resting condition, where the patient is asked to completely relax the muscle and the electrical activity of the skeletal muscle is recorded. Usually there is no potential that has been shown on the monitor, but there may be slight fluctuation because of the miniature end plate potential. Then the person is instructed to cause voluntary contraction of the muscle. With the increase in the force of contraction, the amplitude of the potential naturally increases. Now this electromyograph detects the electrical activity of the skeletal muscle. Now you need to understand this. It is a skeletal muscle's electrical activity which has been detected by this instrument and not the electrical activity of the nerves. But in most of the cases, we give command to the patient to cause muscular contraction. So these muscles which are being stimulated are neurologically activated. Very rarely we give electrical stimulation to the skeletal muscles. So usually the action potential which has been recorded are neurologically activated skeletal muscle action potentials. So this thing should be kept in mind while performing this test. Now what are the equipments which are required to carry out this electromyography technique, or what are the apparatus? Naturally, we require electrodes. There are two types of electrodes. One is the surface electrode, other is the needle electrode. The name itself suggests the surface electrodes are placed on the surface of the skin, and the needle electrodes are having a needle and it is pierced through the skin, and this electrode lies inside the muscle that is to be tested. Now both these electrodes have some advantages and disadvantages. The advantages of surface electrode is that it is placed on the surface of the skin, so there is no piercing of the skin and the patient does not feel any pain while this test is carried out. But the disadvantage is that it is less accurate. While in case of needle electrodes, the electrode is piercing the skin, so patient feels the pain of the electrode piercing, but it is more accurate method. So both of these have advantages and disadvantages. Another thing that is required is the high gain amplifier. This amplifier amplifies the electrical signal that has been taken up by the electrodes, and then it is passing on to the oscilloscope. This oscilloscope stores the information into the hard disk of the computer, or in olden times it is stored in the magnetic tape. Even the EMG signals can be converted into audio signals, and then they can be analyzed for the amplitude and frequency of the action potentials that have been generated by the muscles. Now what are the other things that is required? And a shielded room is required, and a monitor is required to see the electrical activity of the skeletal muscles. So these are the things which are required for recording the electromyography test. Okay, now let's see various patterns in normal EMG. There are four basic patterns which we will look into. First is resting activity, second is insertion activity, third is motor unit potential, and fourth is recruitment. Starting with the resting activity, here we ask the patient to completely relax the muscle, and then we record the electrical activity of the skeletal muscle. As you can see, there are no electrical activities which have been recorded. There may be slight fluctuation. It may be because of the miniature end plate potential. Second is insertion activity. Now this activity is only seen when needle electrodes are used and not in the surface electrode. What happens whenever we pierce the skin of the patient through the needle electrode? There is some brief action potentials which have been recorded, and that is known as insertion activity potentials. But these potentials are only seen when we use the needle electrodes. They are not seen in the surface electrodes. Now third is the motor unit potential. First of all, let's see what is motor unit. Motor unit means single motor neuron, and it's supplying skeletal muscle fibers. So motor unit potential is the potential of the sum of the skeletal muscle activations which are done by single motor unit. Now here we ask the patient to do slight muscle contraction, and then electrical activity of the skeletal muscle is recorded. It is because of the few motor unit action potentials which have been generated, and that is why it may be biphasic or triphasic, but it is usually of short duration because only few motor units are activated. The fourth is the recruitment. Here we ask the person to progressively increase the force of contraction. With each increase in force of contraction, there is an increase in the amplitude and frequency of the action potentials which are being observed. That is why this phenomenon is known as recruitment phenomenon, because there is a recruitment of motor units with each increase in the force of contraction. Now let us see how this graph looks like in the EMG monitor. Here you can see the resting EMG, there may be slight fluctuations. It is because of the miniature end plate potential. This is the insertion activity. It is only seen in the needle electrode. Whenever we insert the needle, this kind of action potentials are recorded, and it is known as insertion activity. Third is motor unit potential. It may be biphasic or triphasic, and it is because of the activation of the single or 2 to 3 motor units when we give the command to the patient to do slight muscle contractions. Now the recruitment phenomenon, here we ask the person to gradually increase the force of contraction each step. So that is why there is increase in the amplitude and frequency of action potential with each increase in the force of contraction. That is why it is known as recruitment phenomenon. Motor unit potential. So it is the sum of the action potentials produced in the muscle fibers stimulated by single motor neuron. It is characterized by the duration, the number of phases, amplitude, and the rate of rise of the first component. So this is the motor unit potential. Here is the duration, this is the amplitude, and this is the phases with the asterisk. So there are 3 phases here, N, P, N. Okay. So let's take one by one each component. What is duration? It is measured from the initial takeoff to the point of return to the baseline. Usually it is 5 to 15 milliseconds. So it is from the fast initial phase to the last point where it returns to the baseline. So this is known as the duration of the motor unit potential. And phases, portion of the MUPs between the departure and return to the baseline. Usually it is triphasic, it is positive, negative, positive, that is PNP, but in this graph you can see it is NPN. But in most of the cases it is PNP, positive, negative, positive. So these are the 3 phases. Usually it is triphasic, but it may be polyphasic MUP with more than 4 phases on 5 to 15% of the cases. Amplitude measured from the maximum peak of the negative phase to the maximum peak of the positive phase. Usually it is 0.5 to 2 millivolt. So it starts from the maximum peak of the negative to the maximum peak of the positive. This is known as the amplitude of the motor unit potential. And rise time is the duration from the initial positive to subsequent negative peak is known as rise time. Normally it is less than 500 microsecond. So from initial positive to the subsequent negative, this is the time duration between these 2 peaks is known as the rise time. So these are the various characteristics of the motor unit action potential. Factors that affect the motor unit potential. There are 2 types of factors, technical factors and physiological factors. Technical factors, it depends upon the type of electrode. As I have already said, when it is needle electrode, it is more accurate, surface electrode are less accurate, so it will affect the findings of the motor unit potential. Then what is the characteristic of the recording surface? That means if the skin is hairy or sweating is there, or if it is having oily skin, then it will affect the motor unit potentials. Then electrical characteristics of the cable, then the preamplifier and amplifier, and how the recording is done. The method is also important, which may affect the motor unit potential recording. The physiological factors which affect is the age of the patient, then the muscles which are examined, whether the muscle is small or large muscle, the temperature, here the temperature of the person who is to be tested, and the temperature of the room. Both are affecting the motor unit potential. So these are the factors which affect the motor unit potential. Now, how the analysis of EMG is done? It is done in two ways. One is qualitative analysis. We do the visual inspection of the record and find out whether there is an abnormality in the muscle on the nerve. Then there is a quantitative analysis. Here we go into the data. That is, we see the data of the amplitude, the data of the duration, then the frequency of the action potentials, and we do the power spectrum analysis. That means we ask the patient to do the muscle contractions at various degrees and find out the force of contraction that has been reported on the EMG monitor. So this is known as power spectrum analysis. So we do the qualitative analysis and the quantitative analysis. Now, what are the applications of EMG? There is one branch known as kinesiology. It is totally dedicated to find out the degree and the sequence of muscle contractions that are occurring in each movement. So whenever we do a particular movement, there is a degree of contraction of each muscle and there is a sequence of muscle contractions to perform that movement. This branch kinesiology determines how this is done, and it is using this instrument EMG to find out the sequence of muscle contraction and the degree of muscle contraction that is occurring. Usually it is done by the physiotherapist, particularly famous in the sport physiology. Now, it is also used to find out the grade of force of contraction that has been generated by the muscle. So we can find out how much maximum force that a muscle can produce, and that is how we can understand how the muscle physiology has been developed. But for us, the most important is the clinical diagnosis and follow-up of the myopathies and to find out the responses of the nerve and muscle to the injury. So basically EMG for the medical professionals, it is usually done for clinical diagnosis and follow-up of the muscular or nerve injury. Now, abnormal EMG findings, there are two basic abnormal EMG findings. One is fibrillation, other is fasciculation. Fibrillation is seen when single muscle fiber is contracted, and fasciculation is seen when single motor unit is contracted. So fibrillation cannot be seen through the skin because only single muscle fiber is contracted. Now fasciculation is visible through the skin, and even the patient can feel the contraction of the muscle because single motor unit is contracted, which contains a large number of muscle fibers. Now fibrillation is produced when the nerve loses contact with the muscle. So there is a denervated muscles will produce the fibrillation, while fasciculations are produced when there are abnormal nerve impulses being generated by the motor neuron without the command from the CNS. So when the person is not voluntarily want to contract the muscle, still the motor neurons are generating abnormal nerve impulses and producing the muscle contraction. So that is seen in fasciculation. In fibrillation, the amplitude is 10 to 100 microvolt, duration is 1 to 2 millisecond, and frequency is 10 Hz. While in fasciculation, the amplitude is 50 to 500 microvolt, duration is 2 to 4 millisecond, and frequency is 2 to 20 Hz. The reason the amplitude, duration, and frequency is less in fibrillation is because only single muscle fiber is contracted, and in fasciculation, because one motor unit which contains large number of muscle fibers, it is contracting the large number of muscle fibers, so the amplitude, duration, and frequency in fasciculation will be naturally more. In fibrillation is usually either in neuropathy or in myopathy, so both of these can produce fibrillation, while fasciculation is usually seen in the neuropathy only. So if there is a fasciculation, there are chances that nerve is damaged more than the muscle. Now this diagram will help us to understand in various scenarios what are the EMG findings that we will obtain. So this is normal muscle, this is denervated muscle, and this is the myopathy. Normal muscle, we will see the three parameters: resting state, slight contraction, and maximal contraction. In resting state, in normal person, there will be usually a straight line. When the person is asked to do slight muscle contractions, the motor unit potential, biphasic or triphasic motor unit potentials will be recorded as usual, and when the person is instructed to do maximum contraction, these high frequency motor unit potentials are produced. This is known as interference pattern. So normal interference patterns looks like this. When the muscle is denervated, there is lack of innervation of the muscle. What will happen in the resting state? There will be fibrillation potentials will be recorded. Now the person is not contracting the muscles, still action potential recorded. These are known as fibrillation potentials because of the contraction of the single muscle fibers. When the person is instructed to do slight contraction, large motor unit potentials are produced. This is known as giant motor unit potentials. These are characteristic of denervated muscle. When the subject is instructed to do maximal muscle contraction, the frequency of action potentials are reduced. Why? Because of the lack of innervation of the muscle. So you will see only few motor unit potential contractions, that is known as reduced interference pattern. Now when there is a muscle disorder or myopathy, what will happen in resting state? Fasciculations will be seen. There will be contraction of the muscle fiber which is visible through the skin. And when the person is instructed to do slight contractions, the motor unit potentials will be present, but the amplitude will be less. As you can see, the amplitude from the normal, it is very less. So amplitude of the contraction is less because there is muscle disorder, because the abnormality is in the muscle, so amplitude of the action potential is less. And when the person is instructed to maximum contraction, again the interference pattern is normal, but the amplitude of the interference pattern is less than normal. So this is normal interference pattern, this is for the myopathy. You can see the amplitude is less. So that is the difference between the normal muscle, denervated muscle, and myopathy in the EMG findings. Now let us see the video of how EMG recording is done. So let us see the normal resting EMG. This is a resting EMG, and this is when the slight contraction is obtained. This is just for the calibration of the unit. So initially for calibration we record the resting EMG and the slight muscle contraction. Then we ask the patient to lift the 20 pounds weight, 40 pounds weight, 60 pound weights and 80 pound weights. First with the dominant forearm, then with the non-dominant forearm. So with the dominant and non-dominant forearm, 4 types of weightlifting is done, and the EMG and the interference pattern of the respective weightlifting has been recorded. So let us see how it is done. So start recording. Now here you can see the person is holding the hand dynamometer. This is how he will generate the weightlifting force. So this is a resting EMG. Now he is lifting the 20 pounds weight and this interference pattern is obtained. Then I will lift the 40 pound weight with the hand dynamometer. So this is the interference pattern for 40 pound. This is the interference pattern for the 60 pound. And next he will lift the 80 pound. So this is the interference pattern for the 80 pound weight lifting. Now I will do maximum contraction. This is the maximum possible contraction that is obtained by hand dynamometer. So this is the EMG patterns for various weight lifting for 20 pound, 40 pound, 60 pound and 80 pound weight lifting, and this interference pattern is obtained in the EMG. So this is how the EMG is recorded on the machine. So let us summarize what we have learned today in the EMG lecture. First is the definition of the EMG. It is a recording of the electrical activity of the skeletal muscle. What are the equipments required? Electrodes, amplifier and monitor. What are the normal EMG patterns? We'll look for the resting EMG, insertion activity, motor unit potential and recruitment phenomenon. Then we looked into the factors affecting the motor unit potential, that is the technical factors and physiological factors. Then analysis and application of the EMG we have listened. And lastly, the abnormal EMGs. There are 2 types of abnormal EMG, fasciculation and fibrillation. So this is all about the EMG. Thank you very much for listening patiently to me. Please put down the suggestion in the comments below, and also you can ask any question regarding EMG. I will try my best to answer all of you. Thank you very much for listening to me. Have a nice day. Bye bye.